Hey there. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. I'm going to be off camera. Hi, Beth.
Hi, Janice. Good to see you.
You too. But I'm in my car. I'm not driving, but that's why I'm going to
Okay.
be off camera.
We know you're here.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, how fun when people from your city pop up. If everybody can put in the chat where you're calling in from, that would be great. I'm here in Los Angeles this morning. I'll put that in the chat. People. Bless you. All right, so I imagine there might be some folks trickling in over the next few minutes, but I want to give Beth as much time as she needs. So uh, welcome everyone. I'm Eileen Levinson. I am the founder and executive director of Recustom, which is the organization that powers Haggadot.com, which I'm sure you're using this Passover to customize your Passover Seder. And the reason that Haggadot.com became part of Recustom is that we're a much larger organization, expanding to help you make rituals your own for whatever life brings, whether that is Jewish holidays, life moments, using ritual in your everyday life to help you just cope with the challenges that are coming or celebrate with life's little joys. So I'm really excited to have Beth Lipshutz here. She is with the BeWell initiative of the Jewish Federation of North America. And she is a wellness educator, and she is going to help us learn the science behind why storytelling builds resilience, especially in young people, and how families can choose different stories to share with each other. And I'm really excited for us to really stretch our storytelling muscles this Passover, which is a holiday all about storytelling. And hopefully we can come to the tables and listen to each other's stories. So with that said, I'm going to pass it over to Beth. Thanks, Eileen. It's so great to be here with people from so many different places. I do want to hear more about the synagogue in the Dutch Caribbean. I'd love to visit. So thank you all. Welcome, welcome. I would love to get to know each of you a little bit as more people pop on and on. So if folks are comfortable taking themselves off of mute and introducing themselves, I would love to know your name, your pronoun, and something you're proud of. For example, my name is Beth. I use she, her pronouns. I am proud that I'm currently redoing my kitchen. If anyone's ever remodeled anything, it never goes as fast as we want it to. And I've managed to not eat out every day. I do feel a little bit like I'm living like a college student. So it's a little bit of a throwback, but that's okay. I don't have to eat out every day. Anyone brave enough to give it a go? Anyone ready? Irv, go for it.
Okay, I'm taking a break between my lunch, but
Keep eating.
no. So I am from Toronto, and um, I'm a physician, and I'm proud that I'm taking on the synagogue presidency for my 5th time as of May.
Wow.
Wow, Irving. That's amazing. Ruth, since you're off mute already, are you into this? Martin, go for it.
I'm Rabbi Martin Hirsch. I'm from Chile, South America. And I am very proud to be the permanent rabbi in the oldest synagogue in all America, the Mikveh Israel Emmanuel in Curaçao, Willemstad, Curaçao, Dutch Caribbean. Hi to everybody.
Wow,
Shalom.
cool. Thank you, Martin. Who else?
Hi, I will introduce myself.
Thanks, Jen.
My name is Jen, and I live in Denver. I've known Beth for a long time, and I've recently become a para-chaplain with our Jewish Family Services, and which I'm proud of. And I'm also leading for the first time a model Seder there with the residents, and so that's part of the reason I joined this call.
So cool. Thanks.
I guess I'll go. My name is Ken Newberry, and I'm proud to stay engaged at my age in life. I'm now vice president of the largest, or not the most continuously serving synagogue in the state of Michigan, in Traverse City, Michigan, starting from 1885.
Cool. Thank you. Anyone else want to jump in? Oh, Aaron, I'm sorry. Keep doing what you need to be doing. Eileen, can I pick you out to tell us what you're proud of?
Ooh, what I'm proud of, gosh, that is that's actually a really good one, because I was just talking with a colleague about how sometimes when we're working really hard to build something, it's so easy to think about all the things that we haven't done. And what, it's nice to think about what we have done. I'm really proud of our team that we've put together this year. There's lots of it's a challenging year, obviously, to be Jewish right now, and our team is really doing a really good job supporting our community and working to make Passover as meaningful as possible.
That's amazing. Thank you. So Eileen named one of the reasons that this is my favorite mixer question ever, because it is hard to remember the things that we're proud of. It's also, first of all, every single one of us probably smiled at some point hearing about what people are proud of. So like, it's a nice little uplift for all of us. And it's a great way to ask somebody that you're talking to, especially the teens in our lives, how they are without using the words, how are you? Because we've all gotten and we've all done the like, fine, and moved on. But there's like nowhere to go from there. But I could ask a follow-up question to every single person now, and we would take hours just talking about what they're proud of. So actually it's really hard for me not to ask follow-up questions during this mixer. So, but I encourage you to use this question in your life, because it's a great way to help start conversations and to build relationships. So thanks for playing along. I really appreciate it. This leads us right into stories. Ellen, go for it.
I am a recently retired school social worker. After 50 years, it was time. And I am at my advanced age, I am now a grandmother of a 2-year-old and a 10-week-old. So those are my big accomplishments. And my children are both in interfaith marriages, and so I'm interested in how to tell stories that will connect with those who were raised in Jewish and those who were not.
I am muted. Amazing. Thank you so much. I have so many questions for you, but we don't need to be here for 6 hours. I'm also a social worker, so love hearing about other careers. And with Ellen's comment, just led us right into why we're here today. Judaism is a religion of stories. Our history has been passed down through oral storytelling, through written storytelling. That's what the whole Torah is our stories. And while we read the same stories in the same order every year, they always mean something different to us, depending on where we are, what we're thinking and feeling, what is going on in the world. I know a lot of meaning has changed specifically this round of Torah since Rosh Hashanah, since October 7th. We think about things differently. And the commentary also always changes. We have a long history of lots of different commentary about the Torah. We know the Jewish people don't agree on many, many things, and that actually was what makes commentary interesting. And that's what makes it something that we can continue to read and to talk about and to study. And we see different things in these stories because of how we're growing as people. And the young people that you're telling these Torah stories to also are seeing different things based on age, developmental level, what they're learning, what they're excited about in the moment, which we know for young people especially, it changes so fast. So we get to be the ones to give this information. And our holidays are all around stories. So Passover is coming up. Can anyone give us a quick rundown of the Passover story?
I'll jump in with the humorous version.
Amazing.
We were slaves in Egypt. Now we're free. Let's eat.
That's it right there. And actually, many of our holidays can be broken down to those like quick 9 words. They tried to kill us. We survived. Let's eat. That's the joke that many of us tell. And we know that for Passover, the point of the Seder, which means order in Hebrew, Rabbi, jump in at any moment if I say something incorrect, is to actually tell the story. It really truly is. It's like the original holiday of storytelling, is that we get to sit together as a family, as friends, as a group of people, and tell the story of Passover. Think of your different Seders throughout the year. How has the story changed, or how have your Seders changed throughout the different years as folks have grown?
Well, I'll jump in. So when our kids were young, we did a lot of acting things out and using a lot of props and doing probably a lot less talking than we end up doing now. We now have family seders where the youngest are in university, as we call it here in Canada. But I now have grandchildren, so I'm going around again to trying to meet the needs of an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old, and those who are also adults and university age. Yeah, and if I can just throw one other thing in here, I'm sorry I wasn't able to do this before. One question I have as somebody who's going to be leading a Seder is what to do about our situation this year and how the Seder should be different. In terms of how we, I love the idea of resilience, and how we focus on that. So that's one of the reasons I'm here. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you for sharing all of that. I don't have a should answer. I do have some could answers. So because it is all about how we tell the story, because you're absolutely right. We relate to things differently this year. I will also send some resources to Eileen. There's a Cavella article that came out the other day that has some great resources. Blue Dove Foundation has some great resources. Just like with any story, everything we do is so dependent on the people that we're talking to and who we are in the moment, because we also get to be human, and change how we think about the story. So such a good question. There's no one answer for sure. Oh, amazing. Awesome. I'll send you some things.
Yeah, and I'll just pop in. I think, just to lift up what Beth is doing. Our perspective is that, like Beth said, everybody's Seder is very different and every family is very different. And we're most interested in helping you come together and support one another during this holiday. And often when we're able to talk about our personal stories and our feelings, those are things that we, that's an opportunity for us to really get to know each other and listen and support. And we can kind of pull ourselves out of thinking about particular politics or situation if we're having, if we know we have like disagreeing viewpoints at the table, to really think about stories where we ourselves have gone through something and can really have empathy for one another.
Which is an amazing lead in to my next thing. So thank you. I'm gonna drop in the chat. This is gonna be the hardest part of doing this on Zoom. Share. Hold on. I have a bunch of Google Docs. I promise Eileen will get them for you as well. This is the science behind why storytelling builds resilience. We know that as the Jewish people, we tell stories. There's actual research that has been done that shows that this is actually important and is proven to build resilience. So there was research done in 2001 that found the more children knew about their family's history, the stronger their sense of control over their lives. And the higher their self-esteem, the more successfully they believe their families functioned. And there's a scale, it's called the Do You Know scale, and I'll drop that in the chat in a second as well. And it turned out to be the best single predictor of children's emotional health and happiness. So the things that we naturally do are actually building protective factors in our kids and in the young people that we work with. After 9/11, the psychologists went back to many of the children that were in New York City in the moment, and they studied how the same group of children responded to the trauma of 9/11, and the results were the same. The ones who knew more about their families proved to be more resilient, meaning that they could moderate the effects of stress. And so to explain the connection between story and resilience, the psychologists coined the term intergenerational self. And it's the sense that you're part of something bigger, that your life is an episode in a larger narrative. And that's exactly what our family stories do for our children and for the people that we tell them to. It helps people know that they're not alone, that those who came before them, oh, sorry, you didn't have access. I apologize. Let me try that again. Okay, try again. Everyone refresh your screen. I'll redrop the link in too. Thanks for being my first Zoom group for this. I appreciate you being patient with me. So this intergenerational resilience is a way, because we get to tell stories over and over. It's a way that we get to build resilience in our children. And the research shows 3 different types of family narratives. It shows the ascending narrative, which says we came from nothing and now we have succeeded. It shows the descending narrative, which says we used to have it all and now we have nothing. But the most healthy narrative, especially that, connects to most of our stories, is the oscillating family narrative, which says that we've all had ups and downs and we've persevered, which directly connects to the Jewish experience, as you all know. Now that you all can see the document, does any of this information surprise you, or what are you thinking about it?
I mean, I'll jump in. I'm surprised because I would have thought that the ascending narrative, I think that so many of us focus on the ascending narrative. And I think, when we think about a family celebration, we're focusing on an ascending narrative. I think, unfortunately, a lot of us do have a descending narrative of things that maybe we are personally, might ruminate over, or we know that family members will ruminate over. And so the idea that the oscillating narrative is that actually is the strongest for resilience is surprising, and also it makes me very optimistic because it helps us know that at any point in that we can be feeling that we're neither in one clear straight up or straight down, that life is about oscillation. And like, and together we all might be at different points in the oscillation, being able to like lift each other up.
Oh, that was beautiful. Thank you. Kai.
Yeah, I actually just heard this from a therapist friend of mine really recently. And what I thought about that was that it does a lot for validating experiences, because if you see yourself as somebody who has failed in some way or is unlucky, you know that part of the history of your family includes the downsides and includes the bad things that have happened to us. And that can validate our experience and also give us hope to look forward to in the future, that we can get out of these holes, or we can look at things differently. And it's not just a straight line that goes either up or down. It's just life.
Yeah, absolutely. Ruth, go for it.
And I guess part of resilience is being able to bounce back. So if you haven't had anything to bounce back from, then you don't feel you have any resilience experience or muscles. But if you think back and can see how you have done that or how your family has done that, then you can build on that. And that also, of course, like Kai said, brings hope.
It's nice to know that you're not the only one that's had to bounce back from something. Irving, did you have something to add?
Yeah, from a practical aspect, I just want to know how you bring this out at a table of a bunch of different levels of ages, etc. So what is the leading question? Everybody tell us I'd like to know the question you would put forward.
Such a good question. How do you all do it in your families? Because I'm not sure it's about asking a question. Sometimes I think it's just about talking and just sharing things, and that, you know, as the adults, we get to tell stories of you know, ancestors, of our moms, our dads, our grandparents. We get to make up stories. We get to ask our kids, you know, what happened in their day, or, you know, we get to prompt them to tell stories. And actually, we're going to keep going into that because there's no one right answer. But there is a list of questions that these psychologists use, the do you know questions. Let's see if I got the sharing correct before I keep going. Yay. Okay. Thank you. These are the do you know questions. Take a look at these. Think about what you know about your own family and what you can talk about. What do the younger people in your family know? And these were the questions that these particular psychologists used in this research. And it's fascinating to sit and go through these with, you know, with a family member. I have noticed that groups of Jewish folks tend to know more of these than some of the other general population, because we are a people of stories. That's a huge generalization, so don't take that like grain of salt for sure. And be proud of yourself. Like, we talk about these things, and sometimes they're buried deep, and like I cannot answer all of these questions without like really thinking hard, but I do know I have somebody to call to help me answer these questions. And it's a lovely reminder to keep calling and keep asking while I still can, so that I can gain these questions. To Irving's point, part of what we do as humans is make sure we're sharing stories in an appropriate developmental way. The story of Passover, for example, the one that we tell our preschoolers is very different than the one that we tell our high schoolers. And we know that, and it oscillates. It's not, you know, it's not that we always add more details. We just know that how we tell the story changes based on interests, attention span, all of the things. I believe Ellen was saying that her Passover table has changed throughout the years. The way she tells the story has changed too. And all of it is correct. All of it is great. Oh, Ruth, please.
I just wanted to point out, as the parent of one biological child and one child that we adopted, that some of these questions need to be looked at. Because
Absolutely.
who do you most look
Yes.
like is very excluding for an adopted child.
I
Right.
appreciate you pointing that out. These were developed in 2001. They certainly could use some work. This is not the end all be all. It's a nice guide. So yes, this is all about knowing your people, and knowing what's appropriate. So I'm glad you said something. Thank you. Any other thoughts about these questions?
Where do you have the questions listed? I don't see them on the screen.
Oh, there is a link to the drive in to the sheet in the Google Drive in the chat.
Okay, thank you. I'll look for it.
Of course. Sometimes what gets passed on isn't 100% true. Oh, Ellen, please jump in.
So, we have had the advantage of having, since when we're Michigan, or I'm a Michigander originally, and since we moved to Northern Virginia 30 some years ago, we had no family here. And some of our friends became our adopted family. And so over time, we've had the benefit of 4 families evolving into our holiday table members. And we all come with different stories, which we've had to modify. I think Ruth was saying that when our kids were little, we used to write plays and have them dress up and, entertain us basically with what they were learning. And now we're on to the next generation with very little ones. So, we've had to sort of modify our seders to kind of meet the needs of who's at the table. And so we've got 4 children this year under age 5. So we're going to have a very, very short Seder this year and it's going to start at 5 o'clock. So I think, you have to know your audience. This is sort of, I guess, off topic from your questions, but we've all come to the table with different experiences we grew up with and sort of had to meld them together to make our own story that works for us.
That's so lovely and not off topic at all. That's exactly the point of this conversation, that it's not even necessarily about facts. Sometimes it's about the feelings that, Ellen, the stories that you all have created connect all of the families that are there. Even if you don't have hundreds of years of history together, you have this feeling of connectedness, and that's what your stories get to be. And they're appropriate for whatever age is sitting around the table at the moment. I have vivid images of jumping around my parents' dining room table like a frog, because at some point, that's what we did. So I imagine that you all have frog hoppers at your tables at some point or another as well.
Lots of music.
I love
lots
that.
of music. Music's a really good way of tying things together at the table, where even the little ones can be, involved.
I love that. And they don't have to be sitting at the table, which is always great.
One thing, thank you for bringing up music, Ellen. We also think about like past playlists that we can make now that everyone's so good. We have so much music at our hands, asking people about a song, to contribute a song to a playlist about Passover, or like some music for when you're all hanging out. That's something that we're doing. That could be, it's helpful to get where people's minds are at. And sometimes that playlist can change year after year, depending on what music you're into or what you're thinking of.
And what a
Well,
fun
we're
thing
very,
to
we're
say.
very, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead,
I'm
Ellen.
sorry. I was just going to say we're very lucky because we have some very musical people who are at the table and can bring their voices and their instruments to, you know, embellish what we're doing.
That's beautiful. And I think the music piece especially is a fun thing to document and look back year after year as to, you know, what were the songs that we felt were important to us 4 years ago, 5 years ago? How has that changed? And music is such a great venue for storytelling. Research also shows, I don't have documents on this right now, but we know that research shows that music sticks in our brain, even when words don't always do it. And sometimes there's things and memories, just like with smells, that we can recall because of what we're listening to or what we're smelling. And it's such a great venue and avenue to tell stories. Storytelling doesn't always need to be oral. It could be through the music. It could be through photo albums. We all have that piece of something of grandma's china or you know, pictures from you know, years ago, or we all have those pieces that mean something to us, that bring up stories. We all have artifacts somewhere, either in our own basements or in a family member's basement somewhere. Everyone's been asked, or, you know, at some point, do you want so-and-so's china? Do you have room for that? And because it brings stories, we often take it whether we're going to use it or not. So there's quilts, there's pictures, there's paintings. We all have those things. So just talking about the stories is not the only way to get these things across. So thank you for bringing up music. What a great segue, and it's my favorite part. The other piece is you don't have to know the whole story. First of all, when you're talking to a 4-year-old, sometimes you don't need it, the whole story is not going to hold their attention. But you don't have to know the whole thing, just like you don't have to know all of the details. It's okay to pick and choose what pieces are important. It's also okay to say, I don't know the rest of this. Let's do some research to figure out what happened, or what do you think might have happened? What a great way to prod some imagination skills and to have those conversations. So we don't have to know all of the facts. We don't have to know everything. It's just a great way to start those conversations, which goes back to how we have these conversations at the Seder table. Sometimes we start something, just like the story of Passover, when we're sitting at the Seder table, often gets passed along between all of the folks who can read from the Siddur. That, you know, sometimes our stories could get passed along too. And so we get to do that with our oral history. We all have our own family stories that we tell. Some of them are super easy to remember. Some of them are not. I am going to drop in the chat. Let me get it open correctly. I created a Google form for you all to take a moment to write a family story that you feel is important. These, when you hit submit, these are going to go back to you, so you have a written record. So if you would like to, this is called a story spine. I'm also going to drop the PDF in the chat as soon as I change the settings on sharing, so you can just see what it is. This is something, a tool that's used by Pixar to help create their movies. We know that Pixar movies specifically have so many different stories that weave through them and that connect and that tell different lessons. But the way they do that is by using a simple structure, and that just, you know, a once upon a time, every day, this happened then, you know, one day, and because of that, until finally, and then every day after that. And we know that stories aren't quite that simple all of the time, but it is a helpful way to think about how we break down the stories we want to share. So there's also a link that I don't know if you can get to from the document I dropped in, that explains Pixar's rule of storytelling. So there you go. That is in the chat if you'd like to read more about it. I'd love to just take a few minutes for folks to fill out or think about what stories they may want to be telling on their story spine. Did that work for people? I'm always worried about the technology. Phew, thank you. And now you've inspired me to find some music to play while we work. So hold on.
Beth, just to clarify, we're taking some time to write our story in that first form that you sent in the story spine, and it's going to be emailed back to us. Yes.
Yes, that is correct. Try to get some music on. See if I could just share sound.
I can share some tunes if you want to send me a link.
All right, I'm gonna pull us back together. Keep writing though if you're writing. Anyone want to share why they chose the story they chose? Or the lesson they're trying to teach with this story? And it's totally fine if people are still doing their thing and thinking about other things. Or any artifacts you might use to go along with your story? Okay, well, as everyone is working and thinking then, keep on going because this is an opportunity to share, but nobody has to for sure. I want you to keep in mind how important what you're doing naturally is for the folks that you're spending time with. Even if you're, hanging with your adult children, we still need to hear these stories. We still care. It's still a nice reminder that we can get through hard things. The world is hard. We're all experiencing it differently, but it's hard. There are challenges that we're all facing. And it's nice to know that we have that family, friend, group of people that we're spending time with to empathize with us and to help build our confidence and to help us talk through things. What you're doing is really truly building resilience for those around you. The other thing I just dropped in the chat, there's an article that just came out from Caveller this week about tips for addressing the current moment of what's going on in Israel and this year's Seder. So just as a resource. Excuse me.
Beth, as we're writing our stories and talking about this oscillating narrative, I just thought I wanted to reflect that, I think for so much of our recent Jewish history, I think we've seen the Passover Seder as perhaps an opportunity where the Jewish people have had an ascending narrative. And I realized that we're really struggling with that. And at Haggadot.com, we've really been trying to think about knowing that even though we personally might feel like we are on the ascend, or our people in previous years might have felt like we were on the ascend, that there are people around the world that are maybe in the middle of a descending moment in their narrative, and that we are, our role is to use when we are at, oscillating towards the top, to be able to help those at the bottom. And I want to reflect how important it is that we can realize that if we feel that we're descending in this moment, it's just a part of the oscillation of the Jewish people's story. And in many ways, our Jewish calendar throughout the year is one of oscillation. Not just Passover, but, we just celebrated Purim, where, there's many challenging parts of the story, and there's a sense of celebration and survival. Rabbi Alan Liu has this great book, This is Real and You Are Completely Unprepared. And it talks about the Jewish calendar year in the sense that after Passover, there's the celebration and the harvest and getting us to Lag BaOmer. We're celebrating, we go through Yom HaShoah, and then we go into Yom HaAtzmaut, just going down the descending narrative of the Shoah, and then up to the founding of the state of Israel, and then we go back down again to Tisha B'Av, which is a very hard date for our people, and then up to Tu B'Av, like a holiday of love, and then going to Rosh Hashanah celebration, Yom Kippur, which can feel like a dark day, and then coming up. So I think my encouragement to everyone in this webinar is to not only think of how we're in a moment of time in oscillation, the Jewish people, and Passover might feel different than it was before, but really our calendar year is always one about oscillation in storytelling. And I think sometimes we shy away from telling the hard parts to our kids, because obviously we want to think about what they can handle, what's right for them. But I think, Beth, what I'm hearing from you is just how important it is for them to understand that our families and our Jewish people have gone through waves of ascending and descending, ascending, descending, and have ascended again over time.
That was so beautiful. I never want to lead another one of these without you, Eileen.
We can team up.
Great. That's exactly it. And that, just like the Jewish people, we have those ascending and descending moments. And we get to be real about it, and we get to talk about it in an age appropriate way that works for us. I never want you to, have to re-traumatize yourself. Things are hard, that's okay, but we get to decide, and we get to share the feelings, even if we're not sharing all of the details. And that's what helps us all learn and grow as humans. And I love what you said about lifting each other, lifting different people up, and that we all have hard times. And sometimes we're at that ascending moment and we get to lift a different group of people up. And we can think of times when it's been the opposite. And what a beautiful thought to take with us as we talk about the different stories and how we work together to build a community. Anyone else have anything to add?
Well, I love what Eileen said, but I always love what Eileen says. But in this particular case, I am also like really struck by the idea of the story spine and the way it was broken out into beats. And the fact that, most of the stories that we think about are once upon a time, things changed, and then happily ever after. But I think it's just as important to see it as less of a fairy tale construct and more of as a like a progressive journey, which is obviously, you know, the journey out of Egypt is one of the centerpieces of Passover and of the Haggadah. But to say that like this is the way it was, here's what happened, and we are forever changed is kind of like, it's not necessarily happily ever after. It's having been through this experience, we are particularly empathetic to these other experiences. And also the fact that like none of there's a thing in that Pixar piece about how none of our how we respect characters more for their attempts and their efforts than for their successes. And I think that that's also could be a really interesting guiding principle for this year, is that sometimes, you know, people will avoid having difficult conversations. And this might be an opportunity to understand that we're all struggling and to figure out how we can live in that space of dissent. Let's not call it conflict, but together. So I think those are some of the things that are popping out for me from these documents, and I want to thank you for bringing them in, because I think that it is a jolt to the system. You know, if you're used to looking at strictly Haggadah texts to talk about the world, it doesn't always feel like it matches. But like when you have something else, an influence or a structure from the outside that comes in, it can actually free you to look at the content differently. At least that was my experience with it. So thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely. Anything else? Thank you all so much for being here and for sharing. I've learned a lot from all of you, so I hope it helped you think about new ways to tell stories too. And that we really do get to build resilience in people. We talk about resilience sometimes as a rubber band, that it's that bounce back. But the reality is we don't bounce back the same way, and that's okay. We can be a different shape and a different form because we've bounced back having learned something. And so it's so wonderful to be able to hear that the stories you're sharing are building this resilience, so that way when we do run into struggles, we have just a smidge of confidence to know that we are going to bounce back and learn something from the experience and grow together. Thank you all so much.